The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was the largest building in the known universe. It floated in space, far from any star, a place where all species could meet and talk. Today, over 300 alien races had sent their representatives. They sat in floating chairs that circled the central platform. Some had scales. Some had fur. Some had no bodies at all, just clouds of light and energy. High Arbiter Velzan stood at the center. He was a Dritheri, a tall creature with blue skin and 4 arms. His job was to keep order in the council. He had done this job for 200 years. In all that time, he had never seen anything like what was about to happen. The council will now hear the complaint from the human delegation, Velzan announced. His voice was calm, but inside he felt worried. Humans were new to the galaxy. They had only joined the council 40 years ago. Most species still thought of them as children, young and foolish, not ready for the real challenges of space. Ambassador Linda Cole walked to the central platform. She was a human woman of 53 years. Her hair was dark with streaks of gray. Her eyes were brown and steady. She wore a simple blue uniform with no decorations, except a small flag on her shoulder. The aliens watched her with different expressions. Some were curious. Some were bored. Some looked at her the way a big animal looks at a small one. Linda did not seem afraid. She stood straight and looked around the room. 3 weeks ago, she began, the Virak Dominion attacked our colony on New Haven. They did not warn us. They did not make any demands. They simply came with their warships and began killing people. A low rumble came from one side of the hall. The Virak delegation sat there, 7 huge reptilian creatures covered in black scales. Their leader, General Krozak, was the biggest of them all. He was 3 meters tall with teeth as long as knives. 2 days later, Linda continued, they attacked our colonies on Riverside and Hope's Landing. The attacks were fast and brutal. The Virak killed everyone they could find. Men, women, children. They burned our buildings and took our supplies. She paused. The hall was silent. 2,300,000 human beings are dead. Not soldiers, not warriors, farmers, teachers, doctors, families who wanted nothing more than to build new lives among the stars. General Krozak laughed. It was an ugly sound, like rocks grinding together. The humans spread too fast, he said. His voice was deep and harsh. They took worlds that should have been ours. They needed to learn their place in the galaxy. Our place? Linda asked quietly. Yes, beneath us, where all weak species belong. Many of the alien delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The Virak were powerful. Their fleet was the 3rd largest in the galaxy. Nobody wanted to make them angry. Linda looked at General Krozak for a long moment. Then she turned back to the High Arbiter. I am here to invoke Article 7, Section 12 of the Galactic Charter, she said. Velzan blinked his 4 eyes. Ambassador Cole, that article has not been used in over 800 years. Then it is time to use it again. Whispers spread through the hall. Many delegates did not even remember what Article 7 said. They looked at each other in confusion. For those who have forgotten, Linda said, Article 7. Section 12 gives any member species that has been attacked, without cause, the right to demonstrate their full military power before the Council. This demonstration will serve as evidence for our request to declare war. General Krozak snorted. Let them show their little ships. Let them bring their primitive weapons. It will be amusing. We are not bringing ships, Linda said. The hall went quiet. What do you mean? Velzan asked. We are bringing soldiers. We are bringing our army. 1 million human soldiers will come to whatever location the Council chooses. They will show you exactly what humanity is capable of. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then General Krozak laughed again. louder this time. Soldiers? Ground forces? How primitive. No civilized species uses ground armies anymore. We have drones. We have robots. We have orbital weapons that can destroy cities from space. What can your soldiers possibly do against that? That is exactly what we intend to show you, Linda replied. Valzan raised one of his 4 hands. Ambassador Cole, I must ask you to consider carefully. A military demonstration of this size has not been done in living memory. The cost alone would be enormous. And if your forces do not impress the Council, your position will be weaker than before. Linda nodded. I understand the risk. But humanity has made its decision. We will not hide what we are. We will not pretend to be weak. The Vara killed our people because they thought we could not fight back. We are going to prove them wrong. Bold words, Krozak said. But words are easy. Let us see if your soldiers can match them. You will see, Linda promised. In 2 weeks, at the location of the Council's choosing, humanity will show you what we have learned in 10,000 years of war. The word hung in the air, war. Most galactic species had moved beyond such things long ago. They fought with economics, with politics, with technology. The idea of millions of living beings facing each other on a battlefield seemed ancient, barbaric, but humans had not forgotten. After the session ended, Linda walked back to her ship. Her aide, a young man named Chris Park, was waiting for her. Ambassador, the message has been sent to Earth, he said. Admiral Henry Cole has confirmed that the expeditionary force is already preparing. Linda nodded. Good. Make sure everything is ready. We only get one chance to do this right. Do you think it will work? Chris asked. There are species here with technology we can barely understand. What if our army does not impress them? Linda stopped walking and looked at him. Chris, do you know why the Varrock attacked us? They thought we were soft. They saw our scientists, our artists, our teachers. They saw people who wanted peace. And they thought that made us weak. She started walking again. They forgot something important. Every human alive today is descended from survivors. Our ancestors lived through ice ages, famines, plagues, and wars. They fought predators with stone tools. They crossed oceans in wooden boats. They survived because they refused to give up, no matter how bad things got. They reached the ship. Linda paused at the door. The Varrock are about to learn what happens when you threaten the children of Earth. They wanted to see our teeth? Fine. We will show them our teeth. Far away, on a planet called Earth, preparations had already begun. Admiral Henry Cole stood on a platform overlooking the largest military base on the planet. Below him, thousands of soldiers were loading equipment onto transport ships, tanks, artillery, helicopters, medical, supplies, ammunition, everything. An army needed to fight and survive. Henry was 61 years old. His face was hard and weathered, marked by decades of service. He had fought in 3 wars before humanity reached the stars. He knew what soldiers could do when properly led. His second-in-command, Colonel Susan Walsh, stood beside him. Sir, we will have the full force ready in 10 days, she reported. 1 million soldiers, 15,000 vehicles, full support elements. Good, Henry said. And morale? Susan smiled slightly. High, sir. Very high. The troops have seen the footage from the colonies. They know what the Varrock did to our people. They are ready. Henry nodded slowly. Make sure they understand this is not just about revenge. We are going to show the entire galaxy what human soldiers can do. Every species out there will be watching. This demonstration will shape how they see us for the next 1,000 years. The troops understand, sir. They will not let humanity down. Henry looked up at the stars. No, he said quietly. I do not think they will. The planet Cathara Prime had been chosen for the demonstration. It was a neutral world, owned by no species, with vast empty plains perfect for military exercises. The Galactic Council had built observation platforms, high in the sky, where delegates could watch in safety. 2 weeks had passed since Linda Cole made her announcement. Now, representatives from every major species in the galaxy floated above the demonstration grounds. They had come to see what humans could do. Most expected to be disappointed. General Krozek sat in the largest observation chair, surrounded by his Varric officers. He had brought extra staff just to record the demonstration. He planned to use the footage to mock humans for years to come. "Look at them," he said to his aide. "They actually think their primitive ground forces can impress us. This will be entertaining." High Arbiter Velzan sat nearby with the other council members. He was less sure than Krozek. Something about the way Ambassador Cole had spoken bothered him. She had not seemed worried at all. That was strange for someone about to humiliate their entire species. On the ground below, Admiral Henry Cole stood on a command platform with his staff. The morning sun was rising over the alien landscape. The air was thin but breathable. The ground was hard and rocky, covered with purple grass that crunched under their boots. "Sir," Lieutenant Katie Brooks reported, "all transport ships are in position. We are ready to begin deployment on your order." Henry looked up at the observation platforms. Thousands of alien eyes were watching. This moment would define humanity's place in the galaxy. "Begin deployment," he ordered. The first transport ships descended from orbit. They were huge vessels, each one capable of carrying thousands of soldiers and hundreds of vehicles. Their engines roared as they landed on the plain, sending clouds of purple dust into the air. The cargo doors opened, and humanity's army began to emerge. First came the infantry. Row after row of soldiers in gray combat armor, their weapons held ready, their movements precise. They did not walk casually like people going for a stroll. They marched with purpose, each step coordinated with the soldiers around them. The aliens watched in silence. More ships landed. More soldiers emerged. Then the vehicles began to roll out. Tanks came first. Not the sleek hover vehicles that most species used, but massive armored beasts that moved on metal tracks. They were ugly and loud, their engines growling like angry animals. Their guns were enormous, capable of destroying buildings with a single shot. Behind the tanks came the artillery, self-propelled guns with long barrels pointed at the sky, rocket launchers on wheeled platforms, mortar teams carrying their weapons in pieces, ready to set up anywhere. Then came the support vehicles, trucks loaded with ammunition, medical vehicles with red crosses on their sides, engineering vehicles with cranes and bulldozers attached, communications trucks bristling with antennas, and still the ships kept landing. Still more soldiers emerged. In the observation platform, General Krozak's smile had begun to fade. "How many is that?" he asked his aide. The aide checked his scanner. "Approximately 200,000 ground troops so far, General. 4,000 vehicles. And the deployment is not yet halfway complete." "Impossible. No species moves this many soldiers by ground transport. It is inefficient." But the humans kept coming. Attack helicopters swooped down from the transport ships, their rotors beating the air with a sound like thunder. They flew in formation, dozens at a time, moving with deadly grace over the marching columns. Fighter jets screamed overhead. So fast they were gone before the sound reached the observers. They left white trails across the purple sky. Ambassador Linda Cole stood among the alien delegates, watching their reactions. She said nothing. She did not need to. A telepathy delegate, a small furry creature with large eyes, turned to her. "Ambassador Cole," it said, its voice trembling slightly, "how long does this deployment take?" "About 6 hours for a full combat deployment," Linda replied. We can do it faster if we need to. 6 hours? To move 1 million soldiers and all their equipment? We have had a lot of practice. The deployment continued through the morning. By noon, the plain was covered with human soldiers and equipment. They had organized themselves into divisions, each one spread across kilometers of terrain. Supply lines connected them. Communication networks linked them. Command posts coordinated their movements. It was not just an army. It was a machine designed for one purpose: war. Admiral Henry Cole's voice came over the observation platform speakers. Honored representatives of the Galactic Council, what you see before you is the first human expeditionary force. 1 million soldiers. 15,000 ground combat vehicles. 2,000 aircraft. Full logistics and support capability. He paused to let the numbers sink in. These soldiers are volunteers. Every one of them chose to be here. They train for years before they are allowed to join a combat unit. They are not conscripts or slaves. They are professionals who have dedicated their lives to protecting their people. General Krozak stood up from his chair. Numbers mean nothing, he shouted. You could bring 10 million soldiers, and it would not matter. Our orbital weapons can kill them all in minutes. Your ground forces cannot even reach our ships. That is true, Henry admitted. In space, we cannot match your fleet. But war is not only fought in space. Eventually, you have to hold ground. You have to control cities. You have to deal with populations. And when you do that, you have to face soldiers like these. We would simply bomb your cities from orbit. Yes, you could. But then what would you control? Ruins? Corpses. Humans do not surrender easily, General. We have a very long history of fighting against superior enemies. We lose sometimes, but we never stop fighting. The Varak general sat down slowly. He was beginning to understand that this demonstration was not going to be what he expected. In the afternoon, the humans began setting up their camp. Tents rose across the plain in neat rows. Field kitchens started cooking meals. Medical stations prepared for casualties. Engineers dug defensive positions. The alien delegates watched in fascination. They are building a small city, Velzan observed. In a matter of hours. We can sustain this force in the field for months, Linda explained. Years if necessary. Our soldiers carry everything they need to survive. They do not depend on fixed bases or supply ships. But the cost must be enormous. It is. Humans spend a significant portion of their economy on military readiness. We always have. Even when we had no enemies, we prepared for war. Why? Valzan asked. Why spend so much on violence when you could use those resources for other things? Linda looked at him with an expression he could not read. Because we learned long ago that peace is not free. Peace has to be defended. And the only way to defend it is to be ready to fight for it. As the sun began to set on Kothra Prime, the human army settled into its positions. Lights came on across the camp. Patrols moved through the darkness. Sentries watched the perimeter. The alien delegates returned to their quarters to rest. Tomorrow, the actual demonstrations would begin. General Krozak did not sleep well that night. He kept thinking about the endless columns of soldiers, the rumble of tanks, the thunder of helicopters. He had expected to see a weak species playing at war. Instead, he had seen something that looked very much like professionals. In her quarters, Linda Cole received a message from Earth. Ambassador, public opinion is strong. The people are behind you. She smiled slightly and typed a reply. Tell them to keep watching. Tomorrow, we show the galaxy what human soldiers can really do. On the plain below, 1 million humans slept in their tents, their weapons close at hand. They had traveled across the stars to prove something to creatures they had never met. Tomorrow, they would begin and the galaxy would never see humans the same way again. The sun rose over Kethra Prime on the second day. The alien delegates took their places in the observation platforms. Today, they would see human soldiers in action. The Galactic Council had built a mock enemy base for the demonstration. It was defended by the same technology the Varak used on their warships. Energy shields, automated guns, sensor networks that could detect movement from kilometers away. The Council engineers had designed it to be nearly impossible to capture. Major Tony Martinez stood at the front of his battalion, looking at the target through his binoculars. He was 34 years old, with dark hair and calm brown eyes. He had led soldiers for 10 years and had never lost a single person under his command. "All right, people," he said through his helmet radio. "The Council wants to see what we can do. Time to show them why you do not mess with humanity." His soldiers checked their weapons one last time. They were ready. In the observation platform, General Krozek leaned forward. He wanted to see these humans fail. He wanted to watch their pathetic attack break against proper defenses. "The shields on that base can withstand anything they throw at it," he told his aides confidently. "This will be over quickly." The demonstration began. First came the artillery. Dozens of guns opened fire at once, sending shells screaming across the plain. The sound was incredible, a rolling thunder that shook the air. The shells hit the energy shields and exploded in brilliant flashes of light. The shields held. The Varak relaxed. But the humans were not trying to break the shields. They were doing something else. While everyone watched the explosions, small teams of soldiers moved around the edges of the battlefield. They crawled through ditches, hid behind rocks, used every bit of cover they could find. They moved so quietly that even the advanced alien sensors barely detected them. These were the electronic warfare teams. They carried equipment designed not to destroy the enemy, but to confuse them. Within 20 minutes, the mock enemy's communication network was compromised. Their sensors began showing false readings. Their automated guns started tracking targets that did not exist. "What is happening?" a Council technician asked. "The defender systems are malfunctioning." "Not malfunctioning," Colonel Susan Walsh explained from the command platform. "Our people found the weaknesses and exploited them. Every system has gaps. Humans are very good at finding gaps." The second phase began. Smoke grenades filled the air around the base. The thick white clouds blocked both normal vision and most sensors. The defenders could not see what was coming. Through the smoke, assault teams moved forward. They did not charge in straight lines like machines. They moved like water, flowing around obstacles, finding paths through the defenses. Each team worked independently, but in perfect coordination with the others. The first breach came at the eastern wall. A small team of 12 soldiers found a blind spot in the sensor coverage. They placed explosive charges and blew a hole through the outer barrier. Then they poured through, weapons ready. At the same moment, another team breached the western wall. Then the northern wall. Then the southern wall. "They are attacking from all directions at once," a Varak officer exclaimed. "How are they coordinating without central command?" "They do not need central command," Linda Cole replied. "Every human soldier is trained to think for themselves. They know the mission. They know what their teammates will do. They adapt to the situation as it changes." Inside the mock base, the human teams moved with deadly efficiency. They cleared rooms one by one, working in pairs and small groups. They used hand signals to communicate. They covered each other constantly. The automated defenses fired at them, but the humans were rarely where the guns expected them to be. They moved unpredictably, used cover expertly, and never stopped advancing. In less than 2 hours, the mock base fell. General Krozak stared at the battlefield in disbelief. "That is not possible," he said. "Those defenses were designed by our best engineers. They should have held for days." Your engineers designed them to stop machines, Admiral Henry Cole replied. They were not prepared for soldiers who can think. The next demonstration was even more impressive, Dodd. It was called Combined Arms Operations. Infantry, tanks, artillery, and aircraft all working together as one force. The humans set up a scenario where they had to capture a series of fortified positions, spread across 50 kilometers of terrain. It was a complex problem that would have taken most species days to solve. Dodd, the humans solved it in 8 hours. Dodd, their tanks punched through the first line of defenses while artillery suppressed the enemy positions. Infantry followed close behind, clearing out any resistance the tanks missed. Attack helicopters swept ahead, destroying targets before the ground forces arrived. Engineers built bridges over obstacles and cleared paths through minefields. Every element supported every other element. When the tanks faced heavy resistance, the artillery shifted to help them. When the infantry found a strong point, the helicopters came to destroy it. When engineers were exposed, infantry teams moved up to protect them. Dodd, it was like watching a single organism with 1,000 moving parts, all working in perfect harmony. How do they coordinate so precisely? Valzan asked. Training, Linda replied. Endless training. Our soldiers practice these operations thousands of times until they become instinct. They do not need to think about what to do. They just do it. The third demonstration came as the sun went down. Night operations. Most species avoided fighting at night. Sensors worked poorly in darkness. Coordination became difficult. The risk of accidents increased. Humans, it turned out, loved fighting at night. A special forces platoon of 40 soldiers was given a mission. They had to infiltrate a heavily defended compound, reach the command center, and extract the target. They had no heavy weapons, no air support, and no backup. Just their personal equipment and their training. The alien delegates watched through night vision cameras as the platoon approached the compound. The soldiers moved through the darkness like ghosts. They made no sound. They left no traces. Even with the best sensors available, they were almost invisible. Where are they? General Krozuk demanded, staring at his screen. I cannot see them. Neither can the defenders, Linda observed. The platoon reached the outer wall without being detected. They climbed over using ropes and hooks, moving in complete silence. Inside, they split into smaller teams and began working toward the command center. Guards patrolled the compound, but they never saw the humans until it was too late. One by one, they were neutralized, silently, efficiently, without raising any alarm. The command center fell in 11 minutes. The target was extracted without a single shot being fired. General Krozuk sat in stunned silence. That is not natural, he finally said. No living creature should be able to move like that. Humans have been hunting in the dark for 100,000 years, Colonel Walsh replied. We may not have the best eyes or ears, but we learn to use tools. Night vision, sound suppression, camouflage. We turned our weaknesses into strengths. But why? Krozuk asked. Why did you develop such skills? You had no enemies when you were alone on your world. Linda Cole smiled sadly. We had enemies, she said. We had each other. For most of human history, the greatest threat to any human was other humans. We have been fighting wars since before we invented writing. We perfected the art of killing each other long before we reached the stars. She looked out at the battlefield, where her soldiers were regrouping for the next exercise. We hoped that reaching space would change us, that we would leave our violent past behind. And in many ways, we have become more peaceful. But we never forgot how to fight. We could not afford to forget. Why not? Because somewhere, deep in our hearts, every human knows that peace is fragile. It can be taken away in an instant. And when it is taken away, You had better know how to fight. Otherwise, you will not survive long enough to find peace again. The demonstrations continued for 2 more days. The humans showed rescue operations, defensive tactics, urban combat, medical response, and a dozen other capabilities. Each one was more impressive than the last dot by the end. Even General Krozak had stopped making jokes. He sat in silence, watching the humans pack up their equipment as efficiently as they had deployed it. In just a few hours, the million soldiers would be gone, leaving no trace on the alien plane. "We made a mistake," he said quietly to his aide. "General, we thought they were prey. We were wrong." He looked at the human soldiers one more time, then turned away. He did not want to see any more. 1 week after the demonstration ended, the Galactic Council met in emergency session. The Great Hall was packed. Every species wanted to hear what would happen next. High Arbiter Velzan stood at the center of the chamber. He looked tired. He had not slept well since watching the human army in action. None of the council members had. "We have reviewed all evidence from the demonstration on Kethra Prime," he announced. "We have analyzed the capabilities shown by the human military forces. We have consulted with our own military experts." He paused and looked around the room. "The conclusion is clear. Humanity possesses military capabilities far beyond what any of us expected. Their ground forces are not primitive. They are highly trained, well-equipped, and extremely dangerous." General Krozak shifted uncomfortably in his seat. The Varric delegation had been very quiet since returning from the demonstration. "The question before this council," Belzan continued, "is what to do about the Varric attack on human colonies. Ambassador Cole has submitted a formal request for authorization to respond with military force." "They cannot be serious," a Varric diplomat protested. "Yes, their ground forces are impressive. But we still have the 3rd largest fleet in the galaxy. They cannot match our naval power." Ambassador Linda Cole rose from her seat. "May I address the council?" Valzan nodded. Linda walked to the center of the chamber. She looked small, surrounded by all the alien delegates, but her voice was steady. "The Varric are correct," she said. "We cannot match their fleet ship for ship. In a direct naval battle, they would probably win." Murmurs spread through the hall. This was an unusual admission. "But war is not decided by naval battles alone," Linda continued. "Let me tell you what would actually happen if we went to war with the Varric." She activated a holographic display showing a map of Varric space. The Varric Dominion controls 47 inhabited worlds. Each world has cities, factories, farms, and populations. Each world needs supplies, communication, and transportation to function. She pointed to the map. In a war, yes, the Varric fleet could damage our worlds. They could bomb our cities from orbit. But eventually, they would have to land troops to actually control territory. And when they do that, they will face our soldiers. "We would simply use robots," Krozak said. "We do not need living soldiers." "Robots can be hacked, jammed, and destroyed," Linda replied. "Humans cannot be hacked. And we are much harder to destroy than you might think." She changed the display to show images from Earth's history, wars, revolutions, resistance movements. For thousands of years, humans have fought against enemies who had superior technology and numbers. We lost many of those wars in the traditional sense, but we never truly surrendered. We kept fighting from the shadows. We made occupations so costly that our enemies eventually gave up. She looked directly at General Krozak. "You could bomb our cities. We would move underground. You could destroy our armies. We would form guerrilla units. You could kill our leaders. Others would take their place. You could occupy our planets for 100 years, and there would still be humans fighting you every single day. You would sacrifice your own people for so long?" Krozak asked. We would sacrifice everything, Linda replied simply. That is what you do not understand about humans. When we decide to fight, we do not stop. We cannot stop. It is not in our nature. The hall was silent. But there is another way, Linda said. A better way. She turned to face the full council. Humanity does not want war. We never wanted war. We wanted to explore, to learn, to make friends among the stars. The Varrock attacked us without cause. They killed millions of innocent people. They thought we were weak. Her voice hardened. They were wrong. But we did not have to prove that with more death. We can prove it with peace. What do you propose? Valzan asked. The Varrock will withdraw from all human territory immediately. They will pay compensation for the lives they took and the property they destroyed. They will sign a treaty promising never to attack human space again. In return, we will not seek revenge. We will not attack Varrock worlds. We will accept peace. General Krozak stood up angrily. You expect us to pay tribute to a species we could destroy from orbit? I expect you to be smart, Linda replied. Yes, you could destroy our cities. But at what cost? How many of your soldiers would die fighting ours? How long would the war last? How much would it damage your economy, your reputation, your position in the galaxy? She stepped closer to the Varrock delegation. You saw what 1 million of our soldiers could do. We have 40 million more on active duty. We have 120 million trained reserves. We have 20 billion people willing to fight for their survival. Is that really a war you want to start? Krozak said nothing. His scales had turned pale. There is something else you should consider, Admiral Henry Cole added from the human delegation. Right now, we are defending. We are reacting to your attack. But if this war continues, that will change. He stood up, his tall frame commanding attention. Humans are very good at defense. But we are even better at offense. Once we commit to total war, we do not hold back. We find our enemies' weaknesses and exploit them without mercy. We attack their supply lines. We destroy their infrastructure. We turn their own people against them. He looked at the alien delegates. We invented a word for this. We call it total war. It means using every resource, every person, every idea to destroy the enemy completely. No rules, no limits, no mercy. That sounds barbaric, a Telethy delegate said nervously. It is, Henry admitted. But it is also effective. Every species that has ever attacked humanity has regretted it eventually. Some of them no longer exist. The hall was very quiet now. Linda spoke again, her voice softer. We do not want total war. Nobody benefits from that kind of destruction. That is why we are offering peace. Real peace, with fair terms for both sides. The Varrock can accept this offer and walk away with their honor intact. Or they can refuse and find out exactly how determined humans can be. She looked at High Arbiter Valzan. The choice is theirs. But I want the Council to understand something. If the Varrock attack us again, we will not ask for permission to respond. We will not wait for Council approval. We will fight with everything we have for as long as it takes until one side or the other is destroyed. Is that a threat? Krozak demanded. No, Linda said. It is a promise. Humans keep their promises. The Council debated for 3 days. Representatives from every species spoke. Some supported the humans. Some supported the Varrock. Some tried to find middle ground. In the end, it came down to a simple question. Did the Varrock want a war they might not win? The answer was no. On the 4th day, General Krozak approached the human delegation. We accept your terms, he said. His voice was stiff and formal. The Varrock Dominion will withdraw from human space. We will pay compensation. We will sign the treaty. Linda nodded. That is a wise decision. Do not mistake this for weakness, Krozak growled. We are not afraid of you. I know you are not afraid, Linda replied. But you are smart enough to recognize when a fight is not worth the cost. That is not weakness. That is wisdom. Krozak stared at her for a long moment. Then, slowly, he nodded. Perhaps humans are not as primitive as we thought. Perhaps not, Linda agreed. But we are not your enemy either. We could be your friends if you let us. The Vara general made a sound that might have been a laugh. Friends? With humans? That would be strange indeed. The galaxy is full of strange things, Linda said. That is what makes it interesting. 1 week later, the Treaty of Kethera was signed. The Varak withdrew from human space. They paid compensation. They promised peace. And humanity's place in the galaxy was changed forever. 6 months had passed since the Treaty of Kethera. The galaxy had changed in ways nobody expected. Ambassador Linda Cole sat in her office on Earth, looking out at the city below. Washington had grown since humanity reached the stars. New buildings stretched toward the sky, built with materials from a dozen different worlds. Flying vehicles moved between them, carrying people from every corner of the planet. A message appeared on her screen. It was from High Arbiter Velzan. Ambassador Cole, I hope this message finds you well. I wanted to thank you personally for your speech at the council last week. Your words about cooperation and mutual respect were very well received. Linda smiled. Things had changed so much. In the months after the demonstration, humanity's reputation in the galaxy had transformed completely. Species that once ignored them now sought trade agreements. Scientists wanted to study human military tactics. Diplomats asked for advice on dealing with difficult neighbors. The Varak themselves had become surprisingly cooperative. General Krozak, who had once laughed at human soldiers, now served as a military liaison between the two species. He said he wanted to understand humans better. He said they were the most interesting species he had ever encountered. Linda was not sure if that was a compliment or not. Her assistant knocked on the door. Ambassador, Admiral Cole is here to see you. Send him in. Admiral Henry Cole walked in, looking older than he had 6 months ago. The responsibility of the demonstration had taken its toll on him. But there was a peace in his eyes that Linda had not seen before. Ambassador, he said, sitting down across from her desk. Admiral, or should I call you former Admiral? I heard you submitted your retirement papers. Henry nodded. 40 years of service is enough. Time to let someone younger take over. The military will miss you. The military will be fine. We have good people coming up through the ranks. Major Martinez, now Colonel Martinez, is doing excellent work with the Special Operations Brigade. Lieutenant Brooks transferred to intelligence and is already making a name for herself. Linda leaned back in her chair. What will you do with your retirement? I have a farm back in Montana, Henry said. Been in my family for 5 generations. I think I will go there. Grow some vegetables. Watch the sunrise over the mountains. That sounds peaceful. It does it not? He paused. You know, when I was young, I never thought about peace. I only thought about the next mission, the next battle, the next enemy. But somewhere along the way, I realized that everything we do, all the training and fighting and sacrifice, it is all for peace. We fight so that others do not have to. Linda nodded slowly. I think about that a lot. Whether what we showed the galaxy will lead to more peace or more violence. What do you think? I think it depends on us. We showed them that humans can fight. Now we have to show them that we prefer not to fight. We have to prove that our strength is not a threat, but a gift. Something we share with our friends and allies. Henry smiled. You sound like a politician. I am a politician, but I am also human. And humans are complicated. There was a knock on the door again. Linda's assistant entered with a datapad. Ambassador, a message from the new colony on New Haven. They completed the memorial for the victims of the Verac attack. They're asking if you want to attend the dedication ceremony. Linda took the datapad. On the screen was an image of a simple stone monument surrounded by gardens. Names were carved into the stone. 2,300,000 names. All the people who had died in the initial attack. Tell them I will be there, she said after Henry left. Linda sat alone in her office for a long time. She thought about the dead. She thought about the living. She thought about all the choices that had brought them to this moment. Humanity had proven itself to the galaxy. But that was not the end of the story. It was only the beginning. Far from Earth, on a small planet in the outer territories, a young woman named Amy Harris was starting her first day of school. She was 8 years old, with bright red hair and curious green eyes. Her family had moved to the colony just after the treaty was signed. They wanted a fresh start in a new place. The school was small, just 3 classrooms in a building made of local stone. But the teacher was kind, and the other students seemed friendly. Today we are going to learn about history, the teacher said. Can anyone tell me what happened on Kethra Prime? Amy raised her hand. That is where the soldiers showed the aliens what humans can do. That is right. And do you know why that was important? Amy thought about it. Because the aliens were being mean to us? Partly, but there is a bigger reason. Before Kethra, most species thought humans were weak and unimportant. They did not take us seriously. But after the demonstration, everything changed. The teacher pulled up images on the classroom screen. Pictures of soldiers' information. Tanks rolling across alien plains. Ambassador Cole speaking to the council. These people showed the galaxy that humans are not weak. We are strong. We are brave. We can defend ourselves and the people we love. Did they have to fight? Another student asked. No, and that is the most important part. By showing what we could do, they made sure we did not have to do it. The Verac decided that peace was better than war. And now, for the first time in galactic history, humans are respected as equals. Amy looked at the pictures with wide eyes. Someday, she thought, she wanted to be brave like those soldiers. She wanted to protect people. But for now, she was happy just being a kid on a new planet, with a whole galaxy full of wonders waiting to be discovered. Back on Earth, in a small town in Kansas, a young man named Danny Phillips was making a decision. He had just turned 19. For the past year, he had been thinking about what to do with his life. College was an option. So was working on his family's farm. But neither felt right. He had watched the footage from Kethra over and over. He had read everything he could find about the demonstration. He had talked to veterans in his town, old soldiers who had served before humanity reached the stars. Now he stood at the door of the military recruitment office, trying to find the courage to go inside. His grandmother had come with him. She was 83 years old, a veteran herself from wars fought long ago on distant continents. Nervous? She asked. A little, Danny admitted. That is normal. I was nervous too, the day I signed up. Everyone is. Did you ever regret it? She thought about the question carefully. No, I saw terrible things. I lost friends. I spent years away from home. But I never regretted serving. Because I knew that what I was doing mattered. I was protecting people who could not protect themselves. Danny looked at the recruitment office door. After Kethra, everyone says we are warriors. That humans are born fighters. But I do not feel like a warrior. I'm just a farm kid from Kansas. His grandmother smiled. That is exactly what warriors are. Farm kids, city kids. Regular people who decide to do something hard because it needs to be done. You do not have to be special to serve. You just have to be willing. Danny took a deep breath. Then he walked through the door. 3 months later, he was in basic training, learning to march, to shoot, to work as part of a team. It was the hardest thing he had ever done. But every night, before he fell asleep, he thought about the soldiers on Kethra Prime. He thought about Ambassador Cole standing before the council. He thought about all the people who had fought and sacrificed, so that humans could take their place among the stars, and he knew he had made the right choice. The galaxy had asked to see what a human army looked like. Now it knew it looked like Danny Phillips, a farm kid from Kansas who wanted to make a difference. It looked like Amy Harris, a little girl on a distant colony who dreamed of being brave. It looked like Admiral Henry Cole, retiring to his family farm after a lifetime of service. It looked like Ambassador Linda Cole, still working every day to build bridges between species. It looked like 20 billion people who refused to be broken, who would not be conquered, who carried the fire of humanity to every corner of the universe. That was what a human army looked like, and the galaxy would never forget it. The end.